Biggie and Tupac defined a whole generation of hip-hop, and honestly a whole generation of pop culture as a whole. Needless to say, the passing of these once-in-a-generation artists left a big hole in hip-hop. Never before in the genre's history had two of the top-selling artists of the era passed away. But on the music side of things, and on the business side of things, there was only one person who could really say they were really impacted more than anybody else.
Check it out. This my man, the Notorious B.I.G.
What's the deal? What's going on?
To understand the relationship between Biggie and Puff, we need to go all the way back to the beginning of Biggie's career. As around the same time, Diddy created Bad Boy Entertainment while working at Uptown Records as part of their A&R department. And it was working this job where he came across a Biggie Smalls demo tape, which eventually led to the signing of Biggie. The two would immediately get to working on a debut album. Puff had secured a deal with Arista Records, and alongside Craig Mack, the foundation for Bad Boy was set. Diddy, alongside the Notorious B.I.G., built a powerhouse in the mid-90s with the success of Biggie's debut record, Ready to Die.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine.
Tracks like Big Papa and Juicy established that the takeover of Bad Boy was definite. Biggie was the biggest star when it came to hip-hop, at least on the East Coast, because when we're talking about West Coast rap, we're talking about a whole different ballgame.
I'm expressing with my full capability.
Unlike Bad Boy, Death Row Records came into the scene with at least one established artist in Dr. Dre. Of course, his time in NWA was mostly spent as a producer, but nevertheless, Dre was still known in and outside of the hip-hop world. Dre would establish Death Row as a label to be taken seriously with the release of one of the most respected albums of all time, The Chronic.
Things done changed on this side. Remember they used to thump, but now they blast, right?
For the purposes of this video, I won't speak too much about it, but it is definitely a cool album that set the tone for 90s hip-hop, especially in the West Coast.
It's like this and like that and like this and
And while all of this is going on, a good friend of Biggie Smalls, Tupac, is locked up waiting anxiously to get his payback on basically everybody from New York. As the story goes, in November of 1994, Tupac gets shot 4 times visiting Quad Studios. This was the genesis of the beef because, understandably, Tupac was a bit paranoid. He didn't really know who shot him, nobody wanted to let any info go, but just a few months after the shooting, Biggie Smalls releases a song called Who Shot Ya? Although Biggie says that this has no relation to Pac, Pac thought it was pretty obvious that it was a mockery, and the butt of the joke was him. And let's just say that if the East Coast and the West Coast rappers had beef before, after Tupac got out of jail, it was war.
I ain't got no motherfucker. So I fucked your bitch, you fat motherfucker.
I mean, the war was mainly on diss tracks and people throwing shots at each other, but it was definite.
Who shot me, but your pumps didn't finish, now you're about to feel.
And the more time went by, the more the beef grew, and it was clear that this wasn't gonna end well. The initial stage for life after Biggie was the release of the song I'll Be Missing You. The song picked up a lot of traction, spending 11 weeks at the top spot of Billboard's Hot 100. Although I will admit one thing, the song's success doesn't speak to the success that Bad Boy was gonna have in the next couple of years as much as it did speak to how much people loved Biggie Smalls. But going back to Puff, you really couldn't pull off the Biggie tribute more than like 2 times maybe. And although Death Row Records could still rely on a Dr. Dre or Snoop Dogg for record sales, Bad Boy Records would not have the same luxury. So if he wanted to keep record sales going, he was gonna have to think outside the box. And with that came the birth of a new era in hip-hop. Although hip-hop and Bad Boy Records specifically already had elaborate videos with storylines and explosions and helicopters and all types of unnecessary shit that the 90s needed, 1997 introduced the world to the Bling era. And if you ask me, I think the genesis of this era was the release of Mo Money Mo Problems. When you think of the visuals that the Bling era carried, you think of this song. You got a Puffy Wood skit, you got backup dancers with fucking pyrotechnics in the back, there's explosions with money flying out, they are in this like anti-gravity thing in this room full of light bulbs. Say what you want, Diddy made sure to pack this video with as many visuals as he could. And hey man, you can call it lazy sampling or whatever, but hey, this should go hard. And I mean, talk about rising above adversity. Replacing Biggie is a big ask, and Puff knew that it would basically be impossible, so instead of replacing Biggie outright, he packed as many visuals as he could into one song. Or I guess I should say one video. But the main reason why I think this is the birth of Bling rap as we know it, is that it introduces the man who is basically emblematic of what Bling rap was all about, Mase.
Now, who's hot, who not?
Now, Mase had been around for a while in hip-hop, working the underground scene and a bunch of remixes with Diddy-related projects. And let me be clear in saying that he did not replace Biggie, but Mase just fits this song beautifully.
Mase, you know ain't nothing changed but my limp. Can't stop till I see my name on the blimp.
The song was a success, by the way. It reached the top spot of Billboard's Hot 100, and honestly, it has gone on to become one of the most iconic hip-hop songs ever made. So with the blueprint of what makes a song successful being laid out, Diddy knew what to do with Mase's career.
Broken glass everywhere. If it ain't about no money, Puff, I just don't.
Puff clearly saw the star potential in Mase, because when Puff released his debut studio album, he called upon Mase to rap alongside him on Can't Nobody Hold Me Down.
Can't nobody take my pride. Can't nobody hold me.
To be honest with you, I wouldn't say this song is nearly as iconic as Mo Money Mo Problems, but it's still a decent song. I wouldn't say it's nearly as good as Mo Money Mo Problems either, but hey, I mean, it works. I should mention that this was also a success. It topped the charts and it established Mase as the torch carrier for Bad Boy Records. And for as much criticism as the Bling era gets for being materialistic and not having substance, I think it works for Mase.
You ready, Mase?
To be honest with you, Mase might have been a little too laid back as it relates to being a star in hip hop, but with the flash and the bling and the shiny suits, Mase was able to be successful with his debut record, Harlem World, being a #1 album. And the songs within it were pretty cool too.
I'm a big man, get this man room. I done hit everything from Cancun.
Feel So Good is one of the songs that I play the most. And I mean, maybe I'm onto something. It was a big hit at the time. It did reach like the top 5 of Billboard's Hot 100. But more importantly, it was a goal song for Team USA's World Cup team in Qatar. To be honest with you, I did not know goal songs were a thing. But hey, I would have picked this song too. And honestly, if I was to talk about the people that Bad Boy inspired with this type of videos and stuff, I could go on for hours probably. You had rappers from Will Smith to Jay-Z trying to be Puff and Biggie, or at the very least, Puff and Mase. And that's just me talking about the late 90s, because the Bling era of hip hop comes and goes throughout the years. There's people that define the Bling era as the mid-2000s. Some might say that the true godfather of this Bling era is Slick Rick. But if you ask me, it all started in 1997 with Diddy, Biggie, and Mase. Anyways, with that being said, shout out to Mase, shout out to Jay Dilla, shout out to me, and I'm gonna let the outro roll, so yeah.